Welcome to episode 22 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast for sharing tips, apps, and gear for iPhone and iPad, along with related technologies that get us using iOS in fun, productive, and meaningful ways. I'm your host, Melissa Davis, and joining me as always is Dave, oops, I did it again, Ginsburg. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing great, Melissa. How are you?
Sorry, I just have to tease you, but I know you can take it, so.
At least this time I didn't keep it, so we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Well, let's talk about our current software versions, shall we? This is kind of like the housekeeping segment of the show.
Yes. First off was iOS 11.2.6, and that was a bug fix. The Telugu character bug.
It looks like Telugu.
Yeah, I saw Everything Mac Apple Pro. The guy who has 5 million viewers on YouTube that does everything, including has every iPhone he ever made, did a video and he actually talked about it, as well as it's been all over the internet. That this character, anytime you would type it in, it was an Indian character that you type. It would actually cause the phone to reboot. Sometimes it actually caused the phone to just crash. It would crash the Messages app. It would stop the Message app from working. So it was a pretty bad bug. So Apple,
is that the character that they have in the screenshot there? So that's just one character.
Yeah, one character that did it. Yeah, crazy, huh?
It's pretty, but I can imagine people probably use some of these characters when they make those. What were they called? Emoticons, the sideways smiley face that we used to have before. So, because I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, when would this ever affect us if we're not using an Indian language to text? But
someone could send it to you.
Yeah, kids like to use alternative characters and stuff, so I could see how somehow it might. You should just update your phone regardless.
So actually, in the notes from Apple, it said that it fixed an issue where certain character sequences could cause apps to crash, which that's what the one it was. And fixing an issue where some third-party apps could fail to connect to external accessories. Yeah, I saw that one too, where what would happen is
I did see that.
Would hook up just any other accessory that it works, says, it can't work. It doesn't work with this device. I'm like, what are you, nuts? Mm-hmm. So they had already fixed this in iOS 11.3, which of course is in beta. But Apple, in their infinite wisdom, realized, you know what, we better release this now and not let this just do any further, because there's a lot of people unhappy with this happening. So they released that. I would go out, make sure you get the update right away. It's a small update on iOS. I think it only took maybe 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, this was a nice short one, unlike some of the other ones. This was nice, short and sweet and to the point.
Versus,
I'm glad I know about that accessory thing now, because I did experience that. I had, I just usually get like a standard Amazon cable to leave in the car for plugging stuff in, because, like a Neanderthal, I still plug it in and charge it while I'm driving, because I've said before, in Arizona, things get murdered in the sun and the heat out here. So I don't like to spend a lot of money on quote unquote accessory cables or anything. So anyway, I noticed that I had plugged it into my cigarette lighter charger, and it said it was no longer compatible. And I thought, oh crap. So I thought it was just the cable. So I swapped out the cable, and now it works to charge again. But now what I'm going to do is go back, and this should tell me now, if I still get that error, then it's going to let me know that the cable was in fact bad. Because if this really truly addresses that bug and that cable's still good, then I shouldn't get that message anymore. So people be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. So I used to always just give up and just, all right, chuck the cable, throw it in the trash or something. Because like I said, I don't spend a lot of money on cables that are not being used inside the home. So be on the lookout for that. So test it out before you trash that cable. Go in and update your phone to this latest version, and then see if your cable still works.
Now, usually those cables are Apple certified, because they can't sell them unless they have the certified logo on them.
That's true. That's true.
Unusual why those cables would give you grief. But
and this was an Amazon basics cable that was actually I think I spent a little bit more money on it because it had a better coating or something like that. So and it had rave reviews on it, so it's not like it was cheaply made, even though the price was really good on it.
I'll mention real quickly, since you're talking about cables, MacSales.com, OWC, they actually sell the real McCoy Apple cables for a lot less. I've picked them up for $9.
Well, and that's interesting you brought that up, because the cable that I have out in my car right now is from OWC, and I love it because it's the braided cable.
Oh, that's a different one, yep.
Yeah, I love how durable that one is.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, let's move on to the other updates. Apple Watch was also updated to watchOS 4.2.3. It also fixed that Telugu bug. It was because it would cause the iMessages app to crash, and that's basically what it says that was out there. And of course, that will get succeeded by watchOS 4.3 when that comes out at the same time as 11.3. That's again, all those updates are looking to be coming out in the spring. So
there's a bug that I experience on my Apple Watch I wanted to ask you about. Yeah. Sometimes I'll get a notification that will come through and it'll do this really weird jittery thing, like it's having a seizure. It'll just kind of keep like going up and down and up and down and up and down really, really fast. And it doesn't actually reveal the text. Like it can't keep up with itself. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, now that I've applied this, I wonder if that will go away. So I'll have to report back on that. And I wonder if anybody else has experienced that.
Yeah, give us send us an email if you've experienced any issues with that on the Apple Watch. I have not experienced that, so that's kind of strange.
I forgot what our email address is. No, I didn't actually, but
questions at intouchwithios.com. No, I'm sorry, feedback at intouchwithios.com. Sorry, wrong podcast.
We got to give a shout out to our friends at Mac Geek Gab because they're a good influence on us. So. Yeah. Yes, so you can email them, but you can also email us at feedback@intouchwithios.com. Yes. And we do read all your emails because we don't get that many of them, so we kind of jump on it.
We need some more. We're lonely, but we know you're listening out there, which is great. Yes. So then the last one was tvOS, and as always, it's very uneventful. Just bug fixes.
Which is good.
Which is good, I guess.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. Which is some bug fixes, and again, there's another update that's 11.3 for tvOS is slated for the spring as well. So, but yeah, that's the updates that have happened since we last spoke. So I guess let's dig in and talk about the HomePod, right?
The HomePod that you know.
5 days of HomePod. That's
so he goes out, he buys it, and he texts me, and he goes, "I have a problem." And I say, the first step is admitting you have a problem. And I was not shocked.
With a picture of it. But I did find some Christmas money, so it wasn't like all was lost. And of course, discussed it with the wife first, and she's like, "Yeah, if you really want it, let's do it." And so. Yeah, the one thing I didn't experience, as everybody was probably seeing, that's been, so we haven't recorded in a couple weeks, is the ring did not show up on my wood furniture. So I was at least safe for that. I didn't have to clean that off. But no, the HomePod it's a neat device. I really was very impressed at how it's built. I mean, it's very heavy, very dense. It had the mesh that's on that. I don't know if anybody, we probably should put it in show notes. The teardown by iFixit, showing them tearing it down. It was near impossible to crack open.
Wow.
They actually had to use a hacksaw to cut it to get open.
Oh, so, I did see that. That's right. So of course,
the repairability is a 1 out of 10. But it's insanely impressive as far as with the amount of speakers it has. The sound is just amazing. It's incredible. Siri in itself was very, very responsive. And when I was across the room, I was able to ask, "Hey, you," that it worked, and it worked beautifully. Now that in itself is great. Now it does have, it is part of the Apple ecosystem. Let's face it, they are not allowing any access to it beyond iPhone or iPod Touch at this time, and it's a device that does allow you to play music through the Apple Music Store. So, I mean, that's great. I'm an Apple Music subscriber, so, I mean, I was happy with that. So I sat for the few days and started playing with it, and it's very responsive. We have a link in the show notes for David Pogue's review, his short review of it, and he's definitely kind of agreeing when I was agreeing here. I really wanted to give it a chance. I took one for the team here for you podcast listeners. So you kind of at least get my insights about it. As I said,
I'm so proud of you that you actually took the time to send it back, though, because I think that sends a message that I bet you're not the only one.
No,
I bet there are a lot of people who are getting them. You know, you kind of can't resist the pull. You go start scraping the coin out of the sofa cushions, you know, trying to pull things together and justify purchasing it, and you get it. And then, you know, but I'm really proud of you because you stood your ground and you tried it. You took one for the team. You scratched that itch. You wanted to see what it was all about.
Right.
And you found that it really just didn't fit your needs, or you have other tools that fit your needs even better than this one, and you took it back. And I think that is going to register in the database to Apple, and they're going to see that, and they're going to say, you know, maybe we need to put some more value into this product.
No, and as I said in the previous episode, I said, you know, this device is a beta device. Even Dave Hamilton from Mac Geek Gab, he said the same thing. But you know, Dave's also a musician and knows a lot about sounds and music, so I mean, he's more appreciative to it too, unless he has a bigger budget than I do. But that's other besides the point. But
he's very in tune, pun intended, that with the sound quality, and he's got the other things to compare it to as far as sound quality is concerned. Right. And I've heard other people, and Jeff Gamet also said too, that I would argue that not just the speakers alone, but the microphones in this thing are outstanding. I think he said he put it at full volume and it still heard him. Oh, yeah, and like I'm in the bathtub with my phone and I'm like screaming at Hey Phone Lady to play some music, you know, and she can't hear me over the podcast or whatever it is that I'm listening to. So I hope that gets improved in the future as well. I had
cranked it to 100%. I love when you say, hey, you turn the volume all the way up to 100%. Are you sure you want to do that? What did I play? I forgot.
I have a thing.
It might have been Maroon 5. I think it was a Maroon 5 song.
Oh, that's a good example. That is cool.
Yeah. So it cranked up, but I'm telling you, Melissa, it was not distorted at all. You expect,
wow, nothing blew out, huh?
On the Amazon Echo, for sure, it doesn't. When it's cranked up 100%, it's okay. It's not distorted or anything, but it's not great.
I bet you Opera has got the sound incredible on that thing.
On this HomePod, it I could not believe it. So I'll definitely put number one with Apple. You guys did an amazing job with the sound. The speakers are insane. They're really good. I'm very impressed.
And the microphones are incredible.
very, very responsive. Like I said, I was all the way across the room, and other people have done demonstrations and showing the sound waves around the device. I mean, you can be a pretty far distance and tell her to play your music for you. But again, I will have listed in the show notes here of a lot of the cons. So first off, what if you're not an Apple Music subscriber? I can't expect everybody to be. You can't use Spotify. Well, you kind of can use Spotify. I guess there's a way around it, because the thing is, the way the HomePod works is it's accessible using the HomeKit app. So when you're in the HomeKit app, that's where the HomePod is accessible. So you can make changes, and that's how it actually pairs with your iPhone. So when you go in there to pair it, it's paired with the HomeKit app. So there are ways, if the built-in app has a way of being able to AirPlay to it. Now, again, it was more designed for AirPlay 2, which still hasn't come out yet. But for some of the things that it can AirPlay to it. So there were some apps that, even a lot of the podcast apps, I could AirPlay it to the HomePod, no problem. But SiriusXM, if you're a subscriber to SiriusXM, nope, you're out of luck. Android user.
So for the podcast, you had to AirPlay it, but you couldn't just get the HomePod to just play a podcast for you from the directory? You
could from the podcasts app, sure. You could
on your phone, though.
No, you could ask it if I don't know if you have to be subscribed to it or not in the podcast app in order for it to play. I did not.
So this is all completely voice controlled. Like, you really have to use your imagination to navigate an OS that you can't really see.
Correct. Yeah. So those are how it is able to engage. The other thing was it doesn't recognize other people's voices. It all thinks everybody's the same.
That would be a problem at my house.
I have a serious issue with I turned it off right away. You wanted to be able to link your messages to it. Send a message to whoever. Well, it doesn't matter who says it. It's going to send a message to whoever on your phone.
Oh God, my kids would have a field day with that.
if somebody you don't want them to be bugging the heck out of somebody, they could do some serious damage really quickly. So I promptly turned that off. But again, beta 1.0, it doesn't distinguish other people's voices. So it's going to think whoever's saying it's going to happen. Again, Android, who cares? I don't know. Nobody here listens to on Android. I'll be honest with you. Free phone calls. It won't allow make you phone calls. It won't allow you to do add things to your calendar. Those are just some of many of the things. I mean, there's so many things that I've had the Amazon Echo for since it basically came out, and it doesn't come anywhere near what that device does. Granted, yeah, I agree. I have the Echo Plus, and the Echo Plus got good sound, but nothing comes close to this HomePod. I mean, other than if you compare it to the other ones like the Sonos Home and some of those higher end speakers. Even they were comparing it to the Google Home Max speaker, which is actually $50 more than the HomePod, and they were saying that one. Some people were comparing that one, saying that was a little better quality sound. But I said, with my experience, my 5 days of experience with the HomePod, I felt the sound was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, I mean, I'm glad I tried it out. I'm glad that I could at least, get a feel of it. I mean, because when you go into the store, you know. Oh yeah,
there's no comparison.
The funny thing is too, when I went into the store, and my local store in Woodfield, Illinois, in Schaumburg, of course, I'm becoming a celebrity because every time I walk in there, I'll shout out to Tracy at the Apple store, because every time she sees, she always says to me, "I know you from the podcast. I listen. I can't wait to." Then so. She saw me buy it. Then she was there again 5 days later when I returned it. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to listen to this episode." So, Tracy, I remembered you telling me that. So I hope now you're getting to hear what my thoughts were. But
he'll be back. Don't worry, Tracy. He'll be back.
I don't think she has to worry. I'm always in that store. So I mean, but that kind of tells them something, realizing that I gave it a shot, because You know me.
I think it's all very constructive feedback.
It is.
I have to say, when you were talking in the beginning about how it's very limited to the Apple-only ecosystem,
right?
I'm going to risk sounding like a total Apple snob, which I really try not to be, but I really kind of hope it stays that way. And I'll tell you why. Because in between the time that we've recorded and the time that you have gotten this, right. I think I told you this. Maybe I told somebody else. I think I told you this. I did help one of my pair of clients set up their brand new. I don't want to use the wrong words. It was an Echo. It was the taller version, not the Dot.
Yeah. No, the Echo Plus. The Echo Plus.
I don't even think it was the Echo Plus, to be honest with you. But it was one of those things where one of their children had gotten them for a gift. Very thoughtful. But these people are in their 70s and 80s, and, they like new shiny things, and they were very intrigued by it, and they were told what it could do, and they had, their kind of expectations of what they wanted it to be able to do. And so they asked me for help with setting it up. Mm-hmm. Well, because I am kind of a very exclusive Apple ecosystem kind of a person, there are times when I do dabble with third-party stuff. That's, of course, part of the deal. I have to be flexible and be able to learn how to get around the stuff. I was not happy trying to set this up for them, because there were skills. You need to have skills. You have to install these things. Like, one of the things that the client wanted to be able to do was find her lost phone. I was like, okay, let's see if we can do that. And sure enough, I just took a really quick Google search and a really quick, evaluation of an app. And I think it was the Tracker. Have you used this Tracker app, or the Tracker skill, I guess it is?
For the Echo?
Yeah, I guess you don't really need it, because we have Find Our iPhone, right? And I've taught them how to use that. And but just comparing apples to oranges here, literally, the experience in an Apple ecosystem and that is exclusive to Apple is just so much smoother and so much nicer. And I get why people complain, oh, Apple is doomed, and oh, they're not doing a good job, and they're releasing things out to the public before they're ready. Yeah, I get that. It's definitely not misplaced anger or disappointment. Right. However, now that I've had an opportunity to sit down and try to set up a brand new device, I was really not happy with that user experience, that experience at all of having to try to scramble to get apps and tasks and skills. And you had to learn this other vernacular, and then you had to verify. And then, just like you were talking about how it only recognizes the one voice. Right. Well, we tested this out, we got it to work. It found the iPhone, like it said. In fact, like you were saying too, I'm just kind of comparing things that you were talking about, right. How it called the phone, and it rang it. Well, once we got it set up, we were like, this is great. Now we set it up for the spouse. And it turns out you could only do one phone at a time. It will only whichever, and luckily we did her second. So it just sticks to whatever the last device that was registered, the last phone. So when we went to try to locate the husband's phone, it wasn't going to have it because it was now registered to the wife's phone. So that was a big disappointment. And it was like, yeah, I understand that the HomePod can't do these things yet, but when it can do it, and that day will come, I really believe that it will get there. It's just not there yet. It's, it's great if people are going to buy this for the speaker quality and the limited things that it can do. Hey, go ahead. You'd go drop that coin on it and beta test it for the rest of us and, do your thing. It's only going to improve. And the constructive criticism that we're giving it right now is only going to improve it so that when the time does come, maybe this time next year, we'll have a different tune and we'll be able to say, yeah, it's great at finding my kid's lost iPhone. It now recognizes, you can train your voice so that it recognizes multiple voices, all those things. Hopefully it'll be able to do. I mean, we'll have a long laundry list of stuff, it'll be one of those things where, well, the Amazon Echo can do this. What can HomePod do for me? And it's really, lacking. But I think there's good reason for that. I think that Apple's really taking their time and crafting the experience so that when we do get those features on board, it's not going to suck like it did this time when I experienced it with the Amazon Echo. I mean, it was just, once we got it going, it was great. And I have to say, I'm not super, super picky about the sound. I do appreciate good sound. And in fact, I've been actually excited listening to people talk about the types of music that they've been testing on the HomePod and the reasons for why. And a couple of people, I think I tweeted it, and our friend Alistair from New Zealand, hi, Alistair.
Hi.
He texted me a link to, and this was what was great, was people were texting me links to a song in the iTunes store that I could go and listen to a sample. And so it's a really great way to kind of explore what people are listening to. And, oh, yeah, listen to the range of all those sounds and bass and treble. And, yeah, I can see why you use that as a test song. It's like I come from the graphics world where it's all visual, and we would always have these test patterns that we would run through a printer so that you could see the quality of how the ink got laid down on the paper and the absorption and the saturation and the color. And it's like people are doing that with their ears by testing these certain songs on the HomePod that they're playing. And so it's just interesting to see. That's why I asked you, I was like, well, which one did you crank to 100? I want to know what song it was. I think Jeff Gamet was playing Dark Side of the Moon. And I was like, wow, that's, I would just love to see what that sounded like. Even just standing outside someone's house, it's got to sound amazing. I was trying to think about all the Led Zeppelin songs that I'd throw at it or the Eagles songs that I'd throw at it. So it's exciting. I'm excited for people that have them.
Yeah, me too.
I'm even more excited for the future of what is to come for the HomePod. Like I said, I keep want to say iPod.
No.
I'm not going to say never. Someday, maybe I'll get ones.
But I'm glad I was able to at least take one for the team, 5 days with it, and give you guys my serious input on it beyond just what we read.
And it's very important that people test these things out, and you get advice from people who've had it in their home. And you put it through its paces. You did a lot of tests with it because you have the other devices too, so you kind of know what you would like to expect from a personal home assistant. And it wasn't up to snuff this time around, but that's not to say that won't change in the future. I still do wonder though what the future holds for a device like this in a family environment. I wonder. That has been always kind of a sticking point when it comes to Apple devices that aren't a Macintosh, because they're kind of like, one person owned devices. Do they expect that families, which are, pretty, let's just admit it, we're pretty strapped for cash just because we're a family. Do they expect people to like a mom and a dad to have their own HomePods, and then how's that going to work? So yeah, I wonder where on the Apple team are there people who have families that are testing this stuff out? Are they testing it out with senior citizens? Are they testing it out with little kids? We know that they've been in the education arena for a long time, and then that kind of sort of not so much. I'd really like to see that come back, and I'd like to see HomePod being tested a little bit more thoroughly in a family environment, in a multi-user environment at least.
I agree. So anyway, that was really my insights, our insights about the HomePod. We talked about it briefly last episode, but I thought it'd what the heck? We got a nice, good sort of information, so you guys can make a informative choice if you decide to go with it. And in closing, I'll just mention, like I said, if you already have a speaker, then I think it's probably going to be a no-brainer. I would probably say wait for 2.0. But if this will be your first speaker and you're looking to get into this ecosystem with speakers, I mean, boy, this is a great choice to start off with. I definitely would say that. I tell you what, if I didn't have an Amazon device, I mean, I would probably have more or less would have kept it.
I could see it happening in my future, in the very distant future, and depending on finances, right. I could see. I would probably be pretty ripe for a device like this because I'm pretty much Apple exclusive, so it would kind of fit with me. But again, I also have a family with little kids, so it will remain to be seen.
Yeah,
heard.
Let's move on to the next topic. Now, you just did this yesterday, so it's fresh in your mind. You actually talked to. We all love our Apple user groups, and I have mine here in Chicago, suburban Chicago Apple users, and I'm the president of. And then you attended the Tucson mug, I guess the T-Mug.
T-Mug, yep.
And you talked about, we've been talking about at great length for the last few episodes, is about podcasts, podcast apps.
Yes. So, we call this podcast In Touch with iOS because we really want it to be a resource for people to be able to learn how to better use their devices. I really would like people to be able to use an iOS device like it's a really awesome toaster. What does it do? It makes your toast. You don't have to think about it. It just kind of does what it needs to do and it gets out of the way. Right. A lot of people really struggle with this, and podcasts is one of those areas where people have been struggling for quite some time for how to be able to even get this information to their ear holes in the first place. What tipped me off on this a long time ago, I think it was this time last year, I went to visit a client who's become a dear friend of mine over the years. And she's one of these people who really enjoys listening to audiobooks and, books on tape and things like that. And so I said, well, have you thought about giving podcasts a try? Well, what's a podcast? So we started to delve into it. And, there's lots of wonderful like NPR shows. I'm really fascinated with this one called The Hidden Brain. I'll use that as an example. And, there's all these just great shows. There was a Serial podcast, the S-Town podcast that were like stories. I mean, even they were true stories, but they were almost like, in a way, like a soap opera for your ears to listen to. You could do these things while you're cross-stitching or gardening or walking, all these things you can be educating yourself and kind of filling your mind with knowledge about. Yeah. But the barrier to get to this has been really frustrating. And so I set out to figure out why that is. And I simply sat down with her and several other people that I've been trying to show. I mean, she's not the only one. I've kind of a list of clients that they either have asked me, I heard about this in the news, or a relative told me, what is a podcast and how do I access it? And so we would sit down and I would watch them. I would kind of observe them and try to teach them how to use the podcasts app that comes from Apple, because it's just already installed on your phone. And I was really just like that. Like I just got done telling you about that experience of setting up the Amazon device. Right. It was one of those things too that it just kind of breaks my heart watching people struggle with this. And I realized what happens is that the targets are so small and people kind of miss them. They kind of like overshoot, or they don't tap long enough. And I realized that the interface is the problem, is one of these barriers to getting people to listening to podcasts because they're really difficult to maneuver. So I kind of went on this quest for this last year to try to find podcast interfaces that made more sense than the one that Apple gives you. It's basic. I'm not going to say it's great. It's very functional for people like us and people who know how to basically like operate a toaster and, let it get out of your way. It's fine. But for people who are new to using an interface and they're really trying to get in touch with things, literally using a touch surface can be a really tricky thing to learn about. So I set out on a quest to try to find better interfaces. And so that's why I've been evaluating all of these different apps. And in my presentation, I basically settled on what I'd call probably the top 5. And so I started with the podcast app that, like I just said, it comes built in. And then, of course, you've heard me talk about Castro. It's called Castro 2 now.
Right.
And some interesting development on them. I had been listening to one of the things that I think is great about Castro is the developers, they walk the walk, they talk the talk. They actually have a podcast, and they, you can almost hear a little bit of how like the sausage is made in some regard. They talk about it a lot. They really care about their product. They really think a lot about all the details that go into it. And as far as the interesting development is concerned, I believe there's going to be some changing in the price structure. Right now it's $4.99, but it has gone on sale. I've grabbed it on sale, but they're talking about ways to keep their development sustainable, which I appreciate and I support. So if ever there comes a time where I have to throw more money at this, I probably will, because Castro 2 has been really my benchmark now as far as podcast apps are concerned, because I have a certain criteria that a podcast app must meet. And one of those criteria is the interface something that a beginner could understand and be able to work. And I like the design of it. I like that it's you can change the contrast to dark versus light. All of those kinds of things right out of the gate speak to people who might have vision issues, who might not be able to see very well. So I really like the detail that they put into that. And then Downcast and Overcast, I put those on the list as well. And the basic thing about those that I said was Downcast. I know you love Downcast, and it's kind of like the big contender. I mean, most people that I have interviewed about it and talked about it, when I say what's your favorite podcatcher app, and Downcast is usually one of the first ones that people mention. Most people have heard of it, or they've used it, or they're using it. And so it's very popular. The only thing about Downcast, well, not the only thing, but Downcast, what I basically explained to is, it's a wonderful app. I mean, talk about details. It is super, super, really granular in all the details and all the things that you can do with it. Not to mention the fact that it's on all the platforms. They have a devoted app for the Apple Watch. They have a devoted app for the Mac if you want to do it that way. Right. And then it synchronizes through iCloud. So it's got all these wonderful features, and you can create lists, and you can, I think this is the one where if you are, say, like a Patreon supporter and you've been given a login, you can listen to podcasts that way. Right. I think it has 1Password integrated support for it. All these wonderful, wonderful things that are like way overkill for a beginner. So that was my thing. It's just too much. It's too much to try to learn. There's like a huge learning curve. And then after that, I talked briefly about Overcast. And one of the great things about giving these presentations is there's always going to be, the hive mind. There's going to be people in the audience that have used it. And so there was a part where someone asked a question about being able to manually paste in a URL that you've been, copied and pasted. And, we learned about that right on the spot where that was located. And then he also showed me like how he makes lists with it. And, I like Overcast. It's free. It's like there's no barrier to entry. You don't have to pay for it up front. Now it's ad supported, but the ads aren't like completely horrible either. So, it's a pretty much a no-brainer as far as, if you want something that's still free or that you can pay for, better features, then Overcast is the way to go for when you want something more than just the podcast app that comes with the phone. But it's, again, for a person, the type of clientele that I'm working with that are just beginners that don't want to be overwhelmed with all the features, it's still a little bit overwhelming with all of the other stuff that they could get themselves in trouble with. They'll stumble on something, or they'll tap on something, and then they'll be overwhelmed and freaked out about, well, how do I get back? And it's just kind of hard to describe. And then the last one that I want to go into that I got to tell you about, that we'll be talking more about this in the next episode, is called Outcast. And this is kind of like a new thing. There's a little bit of a new frontier. This one is specifically for your Apple Watch. Now, there is an app that you purchase it from the App Store on your iPhone, just like any other app, but it doesn't really do anything else. Like, it just gets on your iPhone, and then from there, it's what installs the Outcast app on your Apple Watch. And then very basically, before we go into details about this later, it makes it so that you can download episodes one by one onto the hard drive of your Apple Watch. And so now what's really great, Well, that was the other thing I'll tell you now, and I'll write it down later. I was going to talk about my iPhone. I'll talk about this more later, how I put a lanyard on it because I like to listen to podcasts. And if I go into another room, my Bluetooth earpiece cuts out. So I've just been wearing my phone. Well, with Outcast, it's kind of liberating now because I don't have to wear my phone. I can just play it directly from my Apple Watch. So that's just a teaser. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. You're going to have to tune into the next episode to hear us talk about that in more detail. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. But I did it. I gave my presentation.
No, that's great.
It was well received. People had lots of good questions. So hopefully they're more informed and they'll come back and subscribe to our podcast and other podcasts and get a wealth of information.
No, yeah, we'll definitely anything we've talked about, I'll be in our show notes, and there are a lot of great podcasting apps, I should say.
Podcatchers,
yeah, lots of terms to that. So, no, thanks for your review of that. And like I said, I wish I was there to see it. I'm sure it was great, but it sounded great. All right, moving on. We touched a little bit about this app and this news article on this related to the Google's arts and what is it called? the arts app, was it?
Google's it's
Arts
the Art and Culture
That's
app.
It.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. Say that 10 times real fast.
And you started asking me, okay, well, did you do your art selfie?
Oh yeah, we were going to talk about this, and I was like,
the whole world is like,
if we're going to do this, we need to like take our selfies, right? And so I'm like, I have to go put my makeup on. I got to go put my eyeliner on. I'm not just going to like, I'll end up looking from something from the rogue, like, I don't know, Gothic period or something. So I was all ready to do this, and I asked you about it, and you're like, nope, can't do it. So tell us why.
Yeah, and I know this topic is probably so 30 days ago because I think I haven't seen any more of these posted lately. But for some reason, there's
a hot fad.
There's two states in the wonderful United States of America. One of them I live in, which is Illinois, and the other one is Texas. And there's no federal law saying they can't do this, but both these states restrict the use of facial recognition technology and the collection of biometric data. So. You got 6 to 7 million people in the Chicago area where I live that can't do this. Well, of course, the entire state of Illinois can't, and not be able to do their selfie of who they look like as far as an artist. And I was bummed. I wanted to do it, but I can't do it because I live.
So what happens if you try it? This is what I'm curious about. Now, I did stop when I saw someone post, and I can't remember who it is, so I apologize for not being able to give credit where credit's due. But someone did say, great, now Google has everyone's selfie. Like, I mean, they did already, but I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is a very poised selfie. It's like, I don't know, giving it your driver's license photo kind of sort of. And when they said that, it gave me pause. Like I was about to do it. And then I thought, I don't know how I feel about it anymore now. So what happens when you go to do it?
It doesn't work.
Like what's stopping you?
It doesn't show it. I mean, there was another article in here that I think some people were trying to use VPN. I actually tried to do that. It didn't work.
So wait, you can't even install it?
Oh, I can install the app. I just can't do the selfie part of it. It does everything else.
So what happens? Do you get an error? Like, what does it tell you?
There isn't a choice to go there to do it. I mean, was not able to find it anywhere. So
that is so freaky.
It's completely left out. Yeah.
Now, so you've gone into the App Store and you probably told it to allow to view your location. I take it, right? So the App Store knows where you live, because obviously you wouldn't want to go to the UK App Store, right? I mean, I never quite understood why they ask you that. Like I was just setting up my son's phone and I just did a fresh install on it. And, one of the first things that you do when you go to sign into the iTunes and App Store, it asks you if it can have your location. And I always just say yes, because I always feel like that's probably a good thing. I don't want to be redirected anywhere else. I kind of feel like it's a protection thing as well. I don't feel like many people feel. I don't feel that that's a violation of my privacy. There are certain times when I think it's beneficial for it to know your location. Is that what is stopping the app from allowing that functionality to?
It does location. It's all. It's actually there's a link in the article that we're linking in the show notes from Dwight Silverman of the Houston Chronicle that actually talked about how to get around this. They're in Texas, of course, and I'm here in Illinois. But it's basically saying, you can launch if you have a VPN app, and I know that's the thing. And a lot of us probably have VPN apps that are installed on our iPhone. But if you do, I have a VPN service. There's a bunch of them that you could do, and you can launch it. And then
would you be breaking the law if you did it? That's
the thing. I don't think so. Because what happens if I travel to another state? And then
right.
you obviously
if you come visit me,
exactly.
we can take selfies together. We can go to Las Vegas again and take selfies in front of the fountain again.
Exactly. So it's just very strange law. And Google actually gave into it. I mean, it's like, what are these two states? Well, of course, two of the bigger states in the country. So they could have gotten into some legal issues. But again, it's not a federal law, so I just don't get it. But
so are you tempted to do it? Have you tried circumventing it with your VPN?
I did try it. I couldn't get it to work, so that's why. And I just saw this link in here. I didn't realize this link was in here until I was reading through this article we have linked to in Fast Company.
Oh, yeah, I see it now.
Well, I'll have to check that out and report back.
You have to report back, so I'll have to stay tuned for the next episode to see if Dave could breaking the law.
Yeah. So I'll have to get around that.
No, we don't advocate breaking the law, but we do advocate tinkering and trying to explore your technology to get more in touch with iOS.
So moving on, I don't think we have to talk too much else about that. Another article caught my eye that I thought was interesting is Nuance. Nuance, big for the voice recognition software. They also had a very popular keyboard app for iOS and Android. Actually, it was called Swipe, SWYPE. It was a keyboard app, so you could do the swiping like you do on Android. You could do it on iOS. Well, I guess Nuance decided after 3 years, they just decided to discontinue this gesture-based app, both stores, both iOS and Android.
That's a shame. I have it, but I tried to use it and I just couldn't quite get into it.
I couldn't get into it either. I never really couldn't do it either. So the article does mention that they're not going to be offering it in the iOS store, but they want to concentrate more on developing their AI solutions instead of this app. So,
do they own Dragon? Are they?
Yeah. Nuance is Dragon, naturally speaking.
Okay. So I've heard of that
voice
before.
Recognition software. So that's their bread and butter.
This is a relatively, trustworthy company, but I still, even like that, we were just talking about like that, the Google Selfie app, I'll just call it that. I felt like somebody was watching me take a shower when I wanted to try to use this keyboard, because you have to give it explicit permission to basically look at all the stuff you're texting. I'm not a bad person. I'm mostly a good girl. I would like it if Apple didn't constantly autocorrect my ducking language all the time. Yeah. But, other than that, I'm not giving out trade government secrets and things like that.
Right.
But it still doesn't mean that I really like the idea of giving my personal information that I'm texting to some server somewhere. That kind of weirded me out a little bit.
I always question. I was never a big user of any of these type third-party keyboards. For years, iOS never had a third-party keyboard, so they gave in many years ago. But
they're really, really good breeding grounds for viruses and stuff like that, though. I don't recommend them. Not yet, anyway.
But there's other the closest one they said for the other third-party iOS keyboards that are out there. SwiftKey, I've used that before. That's probably the closest of all of them. Mm-hmm. Gboard, which is a Google product, that's another keyboard. Flesk. I guess that's how you pronounce it. And Grammarly, and there's others as well. So those were one of the ones that are mentioned. But I say SwiftKey will probably be your closest replacement if you were going to.
I do use Grammarly, come to think of it. I hadn't thought of that being one of those types of app that's submitting your information, but I really do want it to be spell checking the stuff that I am posting. So it's one of those convenience over security kind of compromises that only you can decide what's right for you when it comes to these.
Yeah, exactly. So that was another interesting tidbit that caught my eye. This going around here. So let's dig into some of the apps and gear we wanted to talk about. We'll start with you found, of course, because you don't get to use a fireplace because it's always warm where you are.
Right.
You found a real fireplace that's high def that works on the Apple TV.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about. I mean, we just celebrated Valentine's Day here, and we didn't really get to like celebrate. I mean, it was all stuff to do with the kids and things like that. But there was actually a moment where my husband actually said to me, I guess it was one of those nights where it was kind of cold, and we're at that time of the year where once the sun goes down and there's like nothing to hang on to the heat, and it can get really really chilly. Sure. And he said, I think he was getting ready to go do something before we had to go leave to pick up the kids. And, we had like an hour to ourselves, which is so rare. And he even said, he's like, I miss having a fireplace, because he used to live in colder regions where there was. Right. And I was like, aha, it's like of all the things, I felt like we were having kind of a crappy Valentine's Day. TVOS to the rescue. Yeah. And I waited till he went outside the house for a little while, and he came back, and I had this Real Fireplaces HD app playing on the Apple TV, and I could just see the stress kind of leave his shoulders. He was like, oh, that's great. Yeah. So, and again, another thing to stay tuned to, something that I'm working on, I'm going to tease this a little bit now for the future, is I do want to, even though this is an iOS podcast, it's still nonetheless, things that we can do with related technologies. And there are a couple of apps that I'm looking at, that I'm evaluating. So if anybody has any other apps that they'd like to share for this purpose, but the apps that I'm looking at evaluating are for taking your TV and turning it into like a mood setting kind of a device, like a fireplace or a painting gallery or something like that. So I had some fun with that, and I wanted to share that. And there's a link to it in the show notes, and I think it's on sale for like 99 cents or something like that. So go check it out.
It just got launched, as I see here. So
cool.
And the other one I kind of picked for you, and I knew you'd liked it. So there was an article on the Digital Story. That's Derek Story, who's a real famous photographer and a great trainer. Does a lot of photo training. You see him on lynda.com and a lot of other places, as well as other things relating to digital photography. Repurposing your old iPhone into a security camera. I thought that was
I love how to repurpose stuff. Yes, I can't let anything go to waste.
I picked it this week, and I thought you would be the best person to tell everybody about doing this using an app called ManyThing.
I'm going to have to check into this. So yeah, basically, in its description, it says that ManyThing stands for monitor anything. And it lets you take an old iPhone or an old iPad, they've got cameras in them, and put this app on it and turn it into an instant home security camera. Or what I'm going to use it for is a puppy spy cam. So I'm actually going to give this a try. I have a GorillaPod that I can use for a tripod. And I'm going to try to use one of the kids' old iPhones that they just stay home anyway. And I'm going to try to set this up in the kitchen, because that's where we keep Opal, our little puppy. Mm-hmm. She's a good girl, but she's still very much a puppy. She's not quite a year old yet. So she could get into some stuff and really do some damage. So she has like a nice big area in the kitchen. She's not like, there's a crate there for her cave, but she basically has her toys and she has her snacks. And I try to do things to entertain her. I will admit, I'll confess to you that there are times when I put music on for her before I leave the house. I do repurpose an older iPhone, and I just kind of, let it play on. That's probably how my HomePod would be put to use when I wasn't at home. I'd be playing music for my dog. So this will be interesting. So I will have to report back on this. But yeah, this looked really, really cool. I definitely want to look into this.
Yeah,
is it something you're going to look into? Have you tried it yet?
I don't. You know me. I don't repurpose devices. I sell them. So
yeah, that's true.
But I do have an iPhone SE I could play around with. But I was looking at the plans they have available. It looks like you could use one spare device as a ManyThing camera, and it'll receive motion, sound alerts, and you can watch your camera live stream. It won't record or anything. But if you want to add additional cameras, it goes anywhere between $3.99 all the way up to $25.99, depending on how many devices you add, as well as how much cloud recording time you want. So that's pretty cool. So it really just gives you some flexibility depending on what you want to do with it as far as recording. Yeah. But no, it's just amazing what these devices can do. And this will work with both the iPhone and the iPad, which is cool. And then put it on a GorillaPod. That's perfect. And you can set it up and just be monitoring little Opal there.
Yeah, I've always been just kind of curious to see what she does. Well, I just tell myself she's sleeping, but it'll be interesting to see what actually she's doing.
And so the next app I wanted to talk about is, who caught my eye on this is actually our good friend Allison Sheridan from the NosillaCast on Podfeed.
Hi, Allison.
We love you, Allison. And she did a great Screencast Online tutorial for our other friend, Don McAllister, who has Screencast Online. And if you don't know who he is, go check out screencastonline.com because they do some amazing screencasts that Don produces, as well as he's got a full crew of folks now, which I'm loving that he's not doing it all himself anymore. So this app was called Focus. It's actually a camera app that works with the 7 Plus, the 8 Plus, and the 10. And what it does is allows you to make adjustments of the actual background and the focus and all this stuff. It's just incredible. And what it really does is it allows you, as long as you've taken pictures with the portrait mode on any of these devices, again, the 7 Plus, it's the 8
which I'm addicted to,
and the 10. Yeah. And the portrait mode is awesome because it's got all,
I love it.
I mean, Apple in itself has all these settings in here, but you wait till you get this app. I'm telling you.
I can't wait.
Because I know you haven't grabbed it yet. So it is free to play with, and it does have a lot of great features. And like I said, I would highly recommend going out and watching, even do the 14-day trial with Screencast Online to watch this app. It's worth it in itself to check it out. It does all kinds of different focus backgrounds. It'll do a tilt around and allows you to make changes with the focus. You can blur the background. You can bring the background in focus. But the thing is, the photo had been taken in portrait mode because it has to be in those 8. That's what the HEIF format is. That the iPhone takes pictures in that format that saves all that metadata that this app can grab and get into and manipulate the different focus points. So I mean, she did a demonstration of taking a picture just like of a cup or any device. It doesn't have to anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a person. And I'm telling you, it's amazing. One of the coolest things I've ever seen for an app that does in-app purchase. Now, when you get to the in-app purchase, it does give you options for a lifetime and limited access. I did that. It's $9.99, which I think is pretty reasonable. And we'd hope to think that this app will be around for quite a long time. But it did add a 2-hour trial, which I've never seen anybody with an app that charges for does in-app purchases allow you to be able to try the other features. And there are different filters or different settings. There's all kinds of different things you can do on it and make changes to the photo if you for editing. But they allow you to do a 2-hour trial and try it. And if there's some photos you want to do for that 2 hours and you don't want to pay for it, then yeah, go for it. They do have a monthly or a yearly subscription too. If you wanted to subscribe for 99 cents, and it would cover you for a month. If you felt you're only going to use it for a month, then that might be good for you. Or there's a yearly, which is $6, $5.99, or just the lifetime, and then you have it forever. But I would highly recommend checking it out. I mean, the iPhone, the 7 Plus, the 8 Plus, and the 10. The 10, of course, does have probably one of the most amazing cameras there is, and it takes great pictures in portrait mode. And like you said, Melissa, the portrait mode on the cameras are just awesome.
Now tell me, can you use this while you're composing the shot, or is this all post-processing?
Post-process. Yeah,
it's all post-process.
Yeah,
okay. Because one of the things that I do find a little bit frustrating about the portrait mode is that it's kind of like you end up having to do this kind of a cha-cha. You have to do this little bit of a dance. Like it says, get closer, get further away, get closer, get further away. You're kind of like, all right, show me angry, show me happy. Like just show me anything until I get the little yellow square to show up. And it's kind of like a video game trying to get these portraits sometimes, especially I mean, come on, I'm trying to take pictures of kids that are moving targets and my little dog, and she's like never quite looks at me unless I'm tempting her with food or just the right kind of food, and so it gets to be a little bit of a challenge. So this could be really, really great for those shots that I might want to just give like an extra punch to because I didn't quite get what I was looking for, but I got close. So I'm looking forward to that. I was just wondering if it made it any easier so that you had a little bit more control over that focal length that seems to be elusive at times.
I will correct myself. Actually, no, it's pre-process or post-process. So you can open the app and take a picture in real time and then make the adjustments right then and there.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that's a relief. I cannot wait to try that out then, because that, like I said, that's something that I struggle with. It is kind of elusive and trying to get that target.
And it also has a cool thing where for those of you who are really in photography, they have the different types of lenses. So if you can go into, if you want to do a Carl Zeiss lens, or if you want to do a Minolta lens, if you want to do all kinds of different types of lens because lenses make a difference in the way a photo looks too. So they have all these lens filters, which are great. The aperture adjustment is amazing because you actually can go in and change the aperture from f20 all the way down to f1.4. So you can blur the background real easily. So it's pretty amazing. And a lot. Can you leave
the shutter open and get like fireworks and stuff?
I haven't tried that. But it does have all the other adjustments in here too. So like it's got the it shows the spectrum where you can go back and forth and look at the way the actual detail of how the photo looks, and you can pinch it in and out and see what's in focus and what's not. So it's a pretty powerful app, and I was very impressed with it. And of course, when Allison talks about it, it's got to be good,
right? That is so cool.
So yeah, just check that app out, and I think you'll like it. Even if you don't want to spend for the extra features, free is always good. So.
Well, and I like that it has a limited barrier to entry, so that you don't feel like, do I really have to drop $10 just to find out if I'm going to like this? So I really appreciate it when developers take the time to give you that kind of tiered level of access. That's great.
So and then the last app I'll touch upon before we wrap this up. I found this app. Well, actually the app I had was for those of you who use AT&T. There's an app that you can download and get a service with through AT&T called AT&T Call Protect. And what it does is it has a database that actually filters out all these gosh darn spammers that try to call me. I mean, I get them constantly.
They're awful.
It's just a pain in the butt.
And they're dangerous too, because a lot of my clients fall for them and then they get hacked.
Yeah, that, and then the latest one is that they hack your phone number. So they have a phone number that calls you, so it's going to be your area code and your first 3 digits, and then 2 more. And you look at it, it's like, that number looks somewhat familiar because it's almost the same as yours. So they're pulling that kind of stunt lately. So the back end of that app was made by a company called Hiya, Hiya, and I just discovered this app a couple weeks ago. They actually have their own app that actually does a much better job of blocking it, as well as you could tell it, because that's one thing that the AT&T app couldn't do. And of course, this will actually apply to all carriers. And I'm sure all the other carriers have it too. I'm just familiar with AT&T. It allows you to customize a block list. It allows you to do some more comprehensive spam protection. You could tell it to go right to the voicemail. And that was the biggest pet peeve of mine with this Call Protect. It would still ring anyway and say suspected spam, or it would say fraudulent call or scammer fraud, and it would still ring, which would annoy me. It's like, well, the whole point of having this app is being able to block it.
Right.
So this app actually lets you go in there and actually change the settings and identify which calls you want to block, and if it's in the database, you won't even get the call, which is perfect. So, and the best part about it, it's free.
Oh, that's cool. So, I'm going to have to look at this for my husband's phone, because a long time ago when we first decided to kill our landline, we didn't at the time want to lose our phone number. So we ported it to his cell phone, because our rationale for doing that, I'm the one that's kind of home more, that would take those kinds of calls. But when he's away at work teaching, he usually just keeps his phone in his pocket, and he has it on Do Not Disturb. And I think he keeps maybe the mute button on, so that if I call, at least it won't ring his phone, but he'll feel it vibrate, and then he can see. Because I don't call him unless it's super important, or if the school calls or something like that.
Right.
But the unfortunate consequence of making that choice, though, at the time, was that his phone was going to get all the robocalls and all the scammers and stuff. And, for a while there, we tried making a block list, and, oh my gosh, there was a time when, I really, really advocate for people donating blood, which he does, but then it was getting to be relentless. And then all these people with these burner phones were calling him, and it's like, oh my gosh. So we made a block list that we called vampires because it was just getting to be way too much, So now, they've now since changed it. It's great, because now he can use an app, and he can, opt in and make the calls and that sort of thing. So it's been wonderful. But yeah, they can be really really vicious with these, it's automated. It's robots. It's not even real people that are doing it.
It's crap. So, that's the last app.
Great tool.
We'll talk about it. And before we wrap this up, I just wanted to mention that I always have been getting lately, and I'm loving this, because obviously we know people are listening to this podcast, and I can't thank you enough for listening, because we really enjoy doing this. But I have a couple of my coworkers in the last couple of weeks have come up to me and mentioned to me that they've been listening, and they really enjoy listening. And I think one of them said to me that he does it on his commute from work and listens. And I was like, oh, that's great. I love that.
That is great.
And another one said to me in passing, said, so yeah, I got you queued up in on my podcatcher and I'm listening to you guys all the time. And I told him, oh, our new episode's recording. So Adam, I'm giving you a shout out for saying that. I appreciate that. So, I mean, just keep listening. We really, really, really love to hear that you're listening to our podcast. And if you can, leave us some comments. We'd love to either email us at feedback@intouchwithios.com for your comments, but we'd love to also, if you could make comments on iTunes. Go out to the iTunes and leave some feedback and let us know so that shows up in our ratings. We would love to hear you from that as well. So just want to
there's also Twitter, there's Facebook, lots of different ways to get at us.
We talk about it a million times, but I just wanted to mention that, just those specific instances, and I appreciate you guys listening.
No, I think we should add like a little segment at the end where we thank the people that have written to us. So I think that'll be great. I'm excited for that. So let's get some more people writing in so we can give you a little shout out towards the end.
Give us a shout out. We really appreciate it, and thanks for listening. And with that, why don't you wrap us up?
All right. So I'll put a bow on it for us, and I'll tell you that we say thanks for listening, and we hope you're more in touch with iOS after hearing this episode. Subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher, and show your friends how to find us on Apple Podcasts, on the Google Play Store, and on Stitcher Radio. We look forward to bringing you more useful information in future episodes. I'm Melissa Davis, and you can find me online all over at The Mac Mommy.
And I'm Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65.
So stay tuned and subscribe for future episodes, and thanks for listening.